Both to take 3 minutes for any response or a concluding statement, and then we'll move into questions. Is that, yeah.
Okay, to repeat what I've been trying to say, the supremacists within Islam that think that they can dictate to other people what they have to believe and to use violence to make the world safe for the advancement of Islam, using violence, using intimidation, and so on. Those people are out there, and they take the same Quran and they justify what they're doing because they think that they are following the dictates of Allah. I think that that's true. I think that they believe that. To deny that they believe that, I think, is part of the problem. You know, Mr. Atiyah believes what he believes, and I can't take that away from him. But that doesn't deny the fact that there are many Muslims out there that are causing the problem that we all have, including every Muslim in this room, unless you're an Islamic supremacist. And if there are, then that person is the problem. The problem is not so much what I say and what Omar Atiyah says. What the problem is that there are people in the world that want to get to this particular position in life for people that they are living under Islam and their version of Islam. Not so much the version that he's talking about. And these people are out there. And that to call someone an Islamophobe because you say that is totally ridiculous, because there is so much violence that's taking place against Muslims and non-Muslims by Muslims.
1 minute.
Thank you. That it's just mind-boggling to think that you know, you would be criticized for that, but you know, there are people out there in the Muslim world, the IOC, the Islamic Organization of Cooperation. They are trying to get something passed through the United Nations to make it a felony, or not a felony, but a crime, to actually talk about some of the things I'm talking about here tonight. So in other words, they're trying to take away this idea of free speech, that I don't have the right to say that. I'm not saying that people in this room are saying that, but that is out there. They want people to shut up about Islam and not to talk about it the way that I'm talking about it. And I feel like it needs to be talked about, and I feel that imams who do not think like the supremacists, their job, to me, the main job that they have, if we are to get out of this problem, which is what we're talking about here for the third question, to get out of this problem, we have to convince the supremacists that they're wrong. Why are they wrong? I'm just a little old guy that studied history. But what we're talking about here are people that are dead set against taking us all out.
Okay, I'm going to
unless we convert. So that's what I'm trying to say. And thank you for listening.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion, honestly, because I have the same passion. I probably have it double, because not only are they trying to take us out, and I don't know if you know, the latest hit list of ISIS was all of the regional imams that have been condemning ISIS. Unfortunately, my name wasn't on it, which means I'm not making a strong enough impact against them. But, and my wife is shaking her head, why are you wanting me on the hit list? But the point is that we agree on that point that, look, there are people, because to me, not only are they committing all the criminal acts that they're committing against the world and humanity, but on top of it, they're committing criminal acts against our faith, which is double for Muslims. Now, how do we get out of the crisis? How do we solve it? Number one, we solve it by not calling those who believe their faith to be correct, who believe the Prophet Muhammad to have set a great example in his life, not calling them all supremacists. A Muslim who denies that the Prophet Muhammad had a contextual requirement to fight, and him fighting and his companions fighting makes them violent or aggressors, is reading 2 years of the history and denying reality, frankly. And that denial of reality fuels ISIS to then tell the world, if you're Muslim, you're either listening and believing that you're supposed to be nonviolent, which means you're listening to a David Hayden who says that Muhammad was violent, or you have to be with us. Those are the two options they give Muslims. And those are two false options, to be quite frank. Because the real option is that contextually, violence was only used when peace was not an option with the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him. And as soon as it became an option, to the extent that he was there when his cousin and his foster son at the time, they were telling him to wipe off the name of Muhammad, the messenger of God. We don't believe he's the messenger of God, and I'm sure you know this from the seerah. And he says, wipe it off, Ali. And he says, I'm not going to wipe off the messenger of God. He says, where is it? Because he didn't read at the time and write. He says, where is it? And he wipes it off himself because he wants the peace. He wants to do whatever it takes. He yields to be in the humiliated position, in the what they perceive, the companions perceive, as a humiliated position, because he wants the peace. Later they found out it was the clearest victory, and he was the only one who knew, because it was revealed to him from God that peace was the clearest victory. The short of the long story is that the Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, could not just time travel to a different...
1 minute.
Sure. Could not time travel to a different time and place in the world when people understood that military options were not the best option because it was after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He was living in the world where military was the option that everyone used, and it was used against him to stop his preaching and his message. Even when he left his land and his home, even though he hated to leave his land and his home, and his companions and his children and his family and all of them had to leave just to have a peaceful option for a constitutional pluralistic society where they could preach freely, and they're still being invaded and attacked. So what would it be to say to them, you should not have fought to defend your new representation and model of the faith that Jesus, peace and blessings upon him, came with to try to bring the children of Israel back to, that Moses came with, and he wasn't able to make it through the Sinai desert, and Joshua, peace upon him, made it through, and they established it, and King David, peace upon him, had such a kingdom and had such an established land. We believe all these things, and so to us, what he was doing is reviving what the prophets were sent to do. And when he was being stopped aggressively, militarily, 14 years later, God gave him permission to defend it. Just because some idiots don't read history and don't read the Quran properly are using it to say, well, because those 2 years he was allowed to do it, we can then do it to all the world, and that's how we're going to establish Islam. That's idiocy. That's criminality. That's criminality against the faith and criminality against our humanity.
Okay, I'm going to stop
All right,
there.
and we are together on that. The way we fight it is to stop saying that Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, is the problem. All right, that's it.
All right, thank you both very much. We don't have the time we thought we would, so we'll take 2 questions. And I saw this woman here, and you have a question.
I do.
You're not going to make a statement or give your own dissertation. It's a question for one of the 2 panelists. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She's trying to
You can-
rephrase her own question.
You can ask a question,
You should say
and we
all
only
the
have 2
notes I-
minutes. We have 2 minutes.
Okay. My question.
I'm going to, please stand.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll hold it.
I have the privilege of growing up in a mixed family, mixed faith family. And I want to see interfaith respect. I want us to focus on the present.
What's your question, ma'am?
What can we do now? The history is there. We can't go back and change the history. We can't go back and change stuff in our personal life.
What can we do
What
now?
can we do now as an individual, as a community?
David, why
now,
don't you take that?
today.
And I'm going to hold you to a minute. I'm the time czar.
Well, I touched on that. What we can do is not be afraid to speak out. Okay, that's one thing.
People do that.
Speak out and to let people know what you think is the truth.
Mhm.
But I think, like I said before, the supremacists, those that are to me causing all the problems, it includes more than just ISIS and Boko Haram and al-Nusra Front and Al-Qaeda. What it is, it includes people understanding and doing something about it by speaking out.
There are supremacists in every religion.
Yep.
Every religion. What do we do about all of them?
What we're talking about now are the supremacists that today are causing all the problems.
I think the point
not 200 years ago.
is that all religions have terrorists, people who don't abide by the totality. I'm a Christian, so that what we would say is the totality of the gospel. So they'll pick and choose. We all have a canon within a canon.
Right.
That is the truth. And we're struggling with it in my own denomination. What scriptures, what verses do we take literally, and what do we toss aside and say they are not helpful? Our own founder, John Wesley, said there are some psalms in our Bibles that aren't worth and are dangerous to Christian worship. Babies, let's bash their heads against the rocks. That's in our canon. So the question is, what can we do? Here we are, Christians,
Interfaith.
Jews, Muslims, non-religious, in a room. So far, no one's gotten hurt.
Yeah.
This is a microcosm of the world. This is
The golden
we're all
rule
getting along,
is in
and we
every
see
major
it in Evansville. We all have
rule.
this question: how can we be part of the solution? Not just speaking out to name the demon,
Right.
but to speak out to say, we're here for peace. We
And-
know there are
Yes.
terrorists,
Interfaith.
but we're here for peace. So Mohammed, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and you have a minute. I had the prophet on my mind. Be upon him. Yeah, right. So Omar, I'm gonna give you a minute to give us a clue.
I'll keep it very short. See if I can beat your minute. I'll say education. I think we've abandoned as a nation, as a world, and as a nation that really has the resources to do this, what I'm about to say, we have abandoned deep understanding and deep intellectual awareness raising and exploration, discovery. We've abandoned it because of fear of, that we'll teach our children to be judgmental when they do deep analysis and deep thinking. Not giving enough credit to the human family that we can, in this age now, revive a much better deep awareness and understanding. And so with that depth of awareness raising and education, understanding the Prophet's life, Mecca and Medina, would be part of what we would do. Understanding the Quran as one discourse and not separate sentences that you can take and apply would be simple for every Muslim and non-Muslim to understand that the Quran is one discourse. It can't be sectioned off. It's heresy to section it off. These concepts are somewhat of the basics of discovery when one is trying to discover a faith and what it represents. But because of our day and time, the last thing we'll do is ask those who are, for instance, represent understanding of the faith, and we'll do the discovery on our own because we believe we'll be judged if we go and ask. Because, to the credit of those who are trying to discover, there hasn't been that much opportunity for us to feel open with each other and ask. So what each individual can do is ask the question, search on their own, take things that you feel may be biased. Inside our human soul, we can tell when something's biased and when something's not. Authenticity comes first from the heart and then from the lips. So if we believe in that, we can seek that with our deep understanding and discovery.
Would you help me thank the panelists? It's not easy to be vulnerable, and both of our panelists were very vulnerable tonight. This is one conversation, and I, like you, am interested in a solution and how to model peace for our community. We know who the terrorists are, we know what they're doing, we know the destruction they're causing, but how can we fix a piece of this? How can we not jump on that terrorist bandwagon ourselves because we're afraid? And in just a few minutes, you're going to see Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, non-religious, Buddhists in our new chapel praying together and reflecting on a beautiful festival of faiths. And I'll guarantee you, when I talk about Jesus up in the pulpit, I'm going to be thinking salvific Trinitarian Jesus. Omar is going to be like, no. Does that stop us from coming together?
No.
Does that stop us from praying? Understanding that we're different. But at the core, is there this justice doctrine that our religions support? And if there is that one doctrine, let's build a community of peace around that. And then Omar and his folks can worship in the mosque as they see fit. And we'll worship in the church as we see fit. And my Jewish friends will worship in the synagogue as they see fit. The scholarship is necessary. We have to be educated on what's out there. But then what? Do we just stay there? Or do we try to find a solution? I'm interested in that. And if you are, join us. Join us in the fall for some solutions. Let's talk about what it would mean to be educated. Let's talk about what it would mean to find a common denominator. And now I'm starting to preach, so I'm going to shut up. But I'm a preacher. My heartfelt thanks for being here and for your attention, especially to our esteemed panelists. I admire what you've done here tonight. And I would extend to you once again the 7 p.m. service in New Chapel, but keep an eye out for future events in the fall. Thank you all very much.